How do you take sides, staying in the middle of two rather well meaning individuals? How much more reasonable your judgment can be, while all these two are trying to do is reason? Is it true that the world has become far more complicated than what we seem to fathom, or what we acknowledge as mere notions of right and wrong? Asghar Farhadi offers an answer to these questions in its 2011 endeavor, A Separation, and that is empathy. Right from its very beginning, with ID documents being scanned, A Separation is profoundly an Iranian film. It is a story driven by the necessity of a senile man who is not in touch with the reality around himself anymore. His son, Nadir, is dead set against leaving him behind to settle in somewhere new, manifesting an urge to protect traditional values held by patriarchal figures. On the other hand, there is Simin, who is married to Nadir but associates herself with a more progressive ideology. She wants to leave Iran with her husband and 11-year-old daughter, Termeh, hoping to ensure a smoother adolescence for the child. However, growing tension and the lack of agreement between Nadir and Simin do the exact opposite to Termeh, and she is constantly in need of having to choose one parent over the other. It could have been an easy choice to make, only if this marriage fading did not unveil the nature of gender and class inequalities and blur the line between right and wrong. Termeh must observe to make judgment, and so do we, and Farhadi essentially requires that we be the judge right from the initial scene the couple are shown on screen. When asked about the circumstances Simin doesn't speak in favor of, the silent response that she offers speaks volumes. It is indeed Nadir who can call the shots. Confined within a patriarchal social frame, Simin's problems are trivialized and overlooked. Additionally, two particular scenes in regard to gender dynamics draw attention. First, Razia, who was working without her husband's permission, meets Simin to confess her doubt about Nadir being responsible for her miscarriage. While these two women are clearly separated by class, the Iranian flags in the background are a vivid reminder that Simin and Razia share more in common with each other due to their gender than they probably would like to admit. The second scene is when Simin wears her headscarf, again with those flags in the background, reassuring us of the authoritative line of thought that draws a boundary around her being. Farhadi, nonetheless, explores his male lead in the story deeper than that when we see Nadir trying to empower his young daughter, Termeh. One could argue that this sense of empowerment is debatable, but at the same time, being entitled to greater freedom is a tedious process and not an overnight attainment. Alongside these ideas, a separation extensively involves itself in examining the barriers between the working class and the middle class. Hujjat, repeating his misery on various occasions, highlights how the state is failing its working class, which is more of a global crisis than an exclusively Iranian one. Our inability to perceive human nature beyond social class and constant dehumanization of low-income families result in further dissociation between these people and their well-off counterparts. One truly outstanding aspect of this film is how it challenges the way we determine whether someone or something is right or wrong. The story revolves around the legal battle between Nadir and Razia, but it was never explicitly disclosed if Nadir did cause Razia to lose her unborn child. She herself, being unsure, adds the thickest layer of doubt all over the already prevailing questions, making it impossible for the audience to seek truth in an objective manner. An even greater trouble arises when the judge has to reach a verdict following answers he received, asking simple polar questions in this sheer absence of an objective truth. Perhaps Farhadi wants us to ask if laws to protect human rights are humane enough. We also see Nadir explaining to Terme his reasons for lying to the judge, and yet again it forms a new question for the audience. Is it a moral choice to sacrifice one of our values to protect another? This question is then taken to a whole different level when a seemingly righteous Terme also decides to lie in court to save her father, since she has come to realize that laws do not recognize the gray area between black and white. Terme is coming of age, just like Sumaya, who has already figured out the necessity to conceal truth as a result of experiencing a great deal of hardship despite being much younger. From Nadir and Terme lying to Simin leaving, Razia tying the old man to bed, and Hojjat wishing to take blood money even when his wife is in doubt, everyone has a reason to disregard their moral compass. Who is entirely innocent and who is entirely guilty? Or will it come down to our own interpretation of innocence and guilt? Thus, Asghar Farhadi's A Separation is a philosophical triumph. It is an Iranian story in every way, where even the colors of the Iranian flag are put in view in numerous scenes. The green painted walls inside Simon's kitchen and green cars passing or standing in the background work as indications of the movement that took place a couple years prior to the film's release. Yet, Farhadi managed to deliver messages that are universal through his film. A separation is happening between relationships, between social classes, between ideologies, much like the characters portrayed behind barriers who hardly ever share the screen together. We face challenges every time we make an attempt to reach out to the person next to us. We all are simply caught up in a reality we are trying to break free from. Farhadi suggests that we pay attention to each other and not make quick judgment, because being, thinking, or believing different doesn't automatically make any of us evil. Perhaps what we need is empathy to bring us together and resist this chaos growing around our lives, as judgment without compassion for others is judgment in vain. What parent did Terme eventually choose to live with? Well, Farhadi doesn't believe that it would be the right thing for us to know. Instead, he has been pushing us to be the judge all along.